You should have been knocked out for the count a long time ago. Certainly so by now. And it comes as a very unpleasant surprise to those invested in your demise that you're not only still standing 10 toes down, but that you also strangely seem to be levitating off the ground, completely defying the natural laws of a three-dimensional existence. Go figure. What's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you today, Monday, July 6th, 2026, and it is 12:46. Okay, on the clock. Very interesting, very interesting. All right, so we're gonna jump right into this. I hope that you had a great holiday weekend for all that it's worth. However you spend the 4th or see the 4th, I hope that it was a peaceful weekend, fun, exciting, festive, food filled, all of the above or none of the above, just whatever it is that you wanted it to be. I hope it was that. I myself didn't leave the house the entire weekend. I just didn't feel called to go anywhere. And I liked it like that, to be honest. I even almost went out for the fireworks at night at the waterfront, but when I saw the forecast, I was like, eh. And indeed it did. Rain, cats and dogs, thunder, lightning. It was like a ferocious storm that night, which would have been around about the time really that the fireworks should have started, but certainly by the time I would have been trying to make my way home. So my son was impressed, and so I didn't feel any pressure. We just watched the live celebrations on YouTube and on, no, I think it was, what was it? One of those channels, Prime, Netflix, one of them was showing the live celebrations. And that was good enough, to be honest. I did not feel any FOMO whatsoever. I made hamburgers, hot dogs, and potato salad, and we had all the snacks for our heart's content right up in the house. So we were good. It was a perfect type of celebration for this year where I felt like I wasn't pressured or pressed to be out and about because I felt like the energy was supercharged. And given the storm that passed through at the time of the fireworks, it kind of confirmed that I was right on the nose. And then today actually, I woke up to a really ferocious storm, although it was quite therapeutic because it was really, really dark. And the storm was, it was storming. It was definitely storming, but something about it was therapeutic too. So all of this may play into or may be connected to the pre-shuffled message. Or maybe you perhaps missed some storms or some attacks by the hair of your chin, or you survived in a way that seemed to be a stroke of luck or favor in some way, shape, or form. But just as I revere my instincts and my intuition keeping me out of the rain for something as practical as going to see the fireworks, it may be something along that lines on a much grander scale that has occurred, and that is the observance of a so-called appearance of levitation, or like I said, like dashing arrows and attacks and attempts that were pretty on point and on target, to hit you where it hurts, to say the least. But, let's see what we got here, shall we? Let's see what we got. Oh, look at this. Multiple attempts, but we know with the Eight of Wands that transmutes into an advancement, an acceleration. So what was meant to be a setback is actually turning out to be, as they used to say in church, a set up for something far more advancing and productive, perhaps than you were even on track for, is what I usually see the Eight of Wands as. Like, it's a supernatural acceleration, one that you probably couldn't have come by or wouldn't come by in your own, here it is, in your human, by your own human capability, which is perhaps why it seems like on the outside in, from the outside looking in, something ain't right. Like, what are you doing over there? What do you got going on? Are you doing some type of witchcraft? You can't just be that lucky. You can't just be that favored. But you know what? It's giving me the funny part, the ironic part about all of this is that I feel like the energies that are being projected towards you are the advancement. If people would just leave well enough alone, leave you to your own devices, your own destiny, you would be on track by the divine design, indeed, but perhaps not at the speed of light in which you appear to be moving, but it's because of the energy that folks are sending you to wish for your downfall, to hope that you fail, to hope that you don't get up from the last hit, to hope that this one is the big one and this one is the one that's really going to put you out for the count, as I said in the beginning. And it's just not, the universe, the realm is just not set up to support that level of violence and that frequency of intention in a way that is a detriment to those that are not in alignment to receive it that way. At this point in time, if it's not your just due for a knockdown, drag out, TKO, then everything that's sent to you with that intention is actually going to produce the opposite effect, because it's like your auric field is supercharged to transmute energy that way, on account of work that's been done. Let's consider like a boxer, like you've been training, you've been working out, you've been disciplined, eating healthy, doing your in the gym, literally sparring, doing whatever it is that you do, running the Rocky steps, the art museum steps in Philly or whatever, like you've been doing the things that would put you in a world, a heavyweight champion fit, consider that spiritually or physically, but more spiritually than anything right now is what I'm talking about. So when you get in the ring, for all intents and purposes, with featherweights in the spirit, now what they may be sending to you might be some heavy hit, like they might be throwing some heavy hitting, their hardest punches, okay? But spiritually speaking, you're up against featherweights that don't have the energetic frequency and leverage behind the force of their attacks to really make the impact. It's like Iron Mike in his prime, where he could eat punches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because he was trained and conditioned to be, somewhat, as I think in his words, he put it like to be a monster or animal. I've heard him say, like that was his conditioning, not just mentally, but physically and energetically. And, that's what he was bred to be when it came to the ring. And unfortunately, it transferred into other areas where it wasn't so conducive. But for all intents and purposes, Iron Mike will always be Iron Mike. Okay. So it's given like, I can imagine punches coming from opponents with all their force and all their might. In some ways, for the mentality that he had, kind of served as like ammunition, almost like riling up the beast in him that much more. Because if you get one off on me, how much harder I'm gonna eat it, and then how much harder am I about to retaliate, or return that force. And when I punch, when I swing, is with the power of 10,000. You know what I mean? Like, not many can survive. Could survive and still can't survive the force of his hit when it's square on the mark, right on the target, So it's a TKO. Remember back in the day when Mike used to knock people out in mere minutes. I think maybe less than a minute. One famous round, if I can remember correctly, but definitely minutes. It wasn't rounds, it was minutes. So anyway, so all that to say is that the energy that folks intend to send, whether it's verbally, mentally, thoughtfully, projectively, physically, actually, like it could be all of the above from all different angles, but they just don't know that they're just contributing to your force, for you to be in your empowerment to advance and grow to a capacity and to a frequency, to a magnitude that you wouldn't have done just by working out in the gym, like an everyday natural occurrence. It kind of takes this intensity to really build a monster to some degree, a powerful force. And that because Divine may have already known that they are actually being commissioned for that agenda in the first place, just to condition someone, just to help them build strength, agility, resilience, grit, all of that good stuff. So, so it's like what they're looking to see be the impact and the effect was never really on track to be that, even when it may have appeared to be in different times and different seasons, but damn sure not now. It was never on track to be that, most definitely, because it was all in alignment to build a certain force and power in someone by the divine order. So that's the irony of it all. That's the irony. Yeah, it's Six of Pentacles. Something that was due to you anyway. Like, this is just bringing you to an advancement, an enhancement that is intended to be supercharged. But like, this is kind of representation of the natural order of life, the balance of life, where cause and effect, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. What goes up must come down, as above so below, as within so without. Like, just natural order of life, law of the universe. Nothing too crazy to see here, except for when you integrate this energy, and it somehow becomes a supercharged balance or an accelerated balance, where things that were like, it's like a restoration of balance in a way where now the things that were withheld unlawfully or unjustly are now also being added to someone. The things that were maybe the wins that were misjudged or forfeited in some, um, I'm hearing, disqualifying way, or it's like when like a match is judged unfairly, in some corrupted way, like some level of corruption here is being corrected, reformed. Maybe you haven't had a title stripped from you in the past unjustifiably, as like Muhammad Ali, since we're talking about boxers, who was Iron Mike's inspiration, how he had his title stripped from him on account of just his personal morals and convictions and religious convictions, social convictions, even political convictions, like stuff like that, that there was a liberty assumed that was out of alignment, or it was, but at the same time it was also used, as I said before, for the benefit, or for the to carry out a more divine agenda. All of that stuff still needs to be restored and returned and regenerated. Power and energy that may have been stolen or siphoned on account of circumstances or interferences, whatever the case may be, it looks like it should just be, oh, okay, somebody just getting on their feet, from a tough break, or getting a handout or a leg up on account of incurring some losses, except for it's much more supercharged than that. So it will actually look like, no, you're not just slowly recovering, or gradually recovering. It's like overnight healing, or overnight restoration, or now being made whole to, at a point of, at a magnitude of excess, where it's not just, oh, you just get back what you put out. Oh no, because it's not it's not just a matter of the return of what you've been putting out. It's also the return of what was stolen, or what was was taken advantage of or interrupted, that was on its way, or what was always due to you, except for whatever interference interjected. Is that too, which is why when you bounce back from an attack, or it never hits you at all, so it seems, or arrows fly right by your head and miss you, it seems like somehow you look like you walking on water, but it's just the favor of the divine being fully restored in the timing that it was designed to be, so which is now, and a now restoration from a past corruption, from a corrupted flow in the past, does look like something out of this world. Like, oh, this is just not even normal. This can't even be real. Like, ain't no way. It just defies the natural order of things to some degree, but not really, because like I said, it's just on account of the things that were held up, that were either forgotten or regarded as lost, or disregarded altogether, maybe even from past lives. That's the type of presence we're talking about being fulfilled at such a time as this, is like lifetimes, seasons, years, months, decades, whatever, attempt after attempt knockout after knockout in past times, you know, of which you fought a good fight, or you know, you trained, you were fully equipped and trained to face the opponent that you thought you were facing, except they had cement in their gloves, you know, or they had the judges in their that's loaded. They had the judges on their payroll or in their back pocket or whatever. You know, the match was fixed to some degree, corruptively. So yeah, something like that. So it's like now all of that energy, all the while, it's still been adding to your training, adding to building your character, building your strength, your resilience, your faith, your fortitude, to your vision, all that. Even when you look like, you know, your eye was puffy and your lip was busted and your body was beat up, you still were being built up all along. So it's like similar to like the like Rocky movies when it looks like he's done for, you know, and most of them, I think it's like one of them where he actually did lose. But was that to Creed? To yeah, I think that was the one guy that actually took him out. Go figure. But similar to movies like that, where it's like, damn, he about to lose this one. You kind of know, like, well, he's a main character, so it's going to turn around at some point. But it looks pretty bad. He looks pretty beat up, but somehow he gains some like supernatural gust of strength. Some inspiration from the crowd, you know, seeing somebody's face or having a memory or recollection or something, and it empowers him to just give it all he got, you know, one last round to take the victory, to take the belt, the championship, the win, or whatever. Yeah, and it seems like it's just it's almost freakish, you know, and it gives the opponent up until that point confidence that, you know, when they see you and got you on the ropes, like, yeah, we about to take this one, I'm about to take this one, this victory is mine. And then all of a sudden you just stand to your feet, get in stance and fight in stance and start whooping ass. You know, nobody's prepared for that moment. So I'm saying all this in the matter of the movies, but take that as it resonates. As I said in the beginning, you standing 10 toes down after what was supposed to be a TKO is like, what the? Oh, here it is, the spirit of it all, the resilience of it all with the Queen of Cups. Yeah, is because your strength is from the inside. It's grounded on the inside. Emotional intelligence, intuition, what's the other word? Well, compassion, love. God forbid, you know, come on, that love, and self-love at that. You know, that was the key point that was underestimated, because that's the strength that you can't see. You can't really gauge just how someone loves themselves, or how forgiving they have the capacity to be, or how emotionally balanced they are at their core. You can't really see those things on the outside. That's not a strength that you can weigh in. You can speculate it, you know, based on how someone projects their you know, how based on the image that someone projects, and maybe on some pieces of, you know, some clues of their waking life, maybe, but you can never be too sure of just how deep it goes and how deep it gets for someone. It's like the psychology of someone is just when you would think like you had it you tapped into it, you had no idea that there was about 10 more layers below that level that you have reached or you've become acquainted with, that you may never get to. And even when you get down to those 10, you realize, oh shit, this is an abyss. It doesn't end. Like I was saying about Mike, like the psychology, for the good or for the bad, it won him titles, it won him championship, and made him a very rich man for a time, and cemented him in legendary history, you know, as a legend in his field, and even besides just fighting, just as a celebrity figure. But the psychology of him was what has set him apart. No one, I mean, imagine the psychology of a man that would go as far as to bite another man's ear off. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a whole another level of beast. And I ain't condoning it, and I'm not suggesting it. But I'm just saying, just that, now that's physical evidence of just how dark and deep the psyche can get, that you could never imagine, anticipate, or prepare for. You know, like what was it, Evander Holyfield that he bit? I can't remember exactly, but I was watching that fight. I was at a fight party for that fight, and it was unbelievable. So yeah, like, you could never know just how deep it could go, for good, bad, good or bad. I don't think it's much indifference here. Maybe so, because even with the indifference aspect, kind of taps into the emotional intelligence of somebody being disconnected from the things that most are typically attached to, disassociated from certain things that might even be a bit of a pitfall, an anchor, or a cord that makes a lot of sense, that you're just not so connected to or bound by, that naturally would be expected or assumed or anticipated. You know, it's like having a certain emotional detachment about you that almost seems cold or calloused, when it may not be all the time or holistically, but when it comes to being in the ring, or when it's time to fight or be on guard or be on the defense, it's no holds barred, you know, where there may be other considerations for the opponent, other things to that would hold you back, other things that would be even a crutch or an Achilles heel to some degree. Let's say, for instance, pride, ego, you know, that's not as resonant in a Queen of Cups as opposed to maybe a wand energy, where pride and ego might be the leading force. Passion might be overzealous, you know. It might be expected for a target or an opponent to operate in that same frequency when they just don't, where some things are concerned. Maybe they don't care about what others think of them. Maybe they don't care about how they look, busted eye, busted lip. They don't care what the public sees. They don't care of what the so-called judges deem as a win or a loss. It's something far more personal for them that determines their triumph and their victory. You know, like, so it's like, it was always a mismatch. What do they say in boxing? Like fighting out of your weight class or whatever, you know. But anyway, let's keep going. Yeah, and it's given like somebody thought, because they had so much firepower coming toward a water energy, that it was a sure shot, literally and figuratively. Maybe someone that is deemed to be sensitive, loving, compassionate, forgiving, easily persuaded or seduced. Could be some of that too. Yeah, I felt that heavy, like easily persuaded or seduced. Send a whole bunch of passion projections towards someone's most vulnerable space, believing that they would have to they would be provoked to respond according to this attack, or according, as a reactionary response to what this is, given it's so intensive. But it's like somebody's cool, calm, and collected. And I'm gonna say this because it's coming up. It's like somebody sending a whole bunch of like sexual attacks or sexual projections, because I felt that heavy when I said seduction, doing sex magic or something like that. And it would just, with it being so intensify, like multiple energies projecting toward one seemingly unsuspecting being. Here it is, unsuspecting, maybe even vulnerable, that you would have to be you would have, man, this is really interesting, because I'm struggling on what if I should. Yeah, I'm gonna share it. You would have to be easily impacted. I'm struggling to say this because it's so specific, but I'm gonna say it. I recently had started watching Insecure again. I saw the whole series, of course, but they started a podcast that's really interesting, and it kind of inspired me to go back and watch the series again. So I think I'm all the way up to the end of season 4 already now. But there was a scene, I believe, either in season 3 or 4, where where Issa was pleasuring Daniel, and he shot her in the eye. He shot her in the eye because he couldn't contain himself, or didn't want to contain himself when he got to that peak. And she was so mad, infuriated, to the point where I was like, girl, relax. Like, what did you think was going to happen while you was down there? Close your goddamn eyes. But she was really, really mad, to the point where she cussed him out, stormed out, wouldn't talk to him for a little while. Then when she finally did reconnect with him, because ultimately she actually needed his help, she wasn't really trying to be intimate with him no more. It was just a whole thing, even though she had feelings for him. So take that as you will, because I feel like there's something there. It's like somebody was really trying to, think about your eye. It's like a real vulnerable place to get hit. You could get an infection that way. 1:19 on the clock, okay? There could have been an intention to send infection or illness your way, whatever. Even through projection, people do shit like that, yeah, or to connect with you in a way that puts you in some type of codependent or detrimental state, in a very vulnerable, sensitive space. So there's something to that here, and of course, the clincher is the series is Insecure. So someone wanted to really launch an assault on, like I said before, your security, your cool, calm collectiveness, your self-love, your self-respect, your grace, to infect or project disgrace. So, but all this to say that with all the attempts, all the tactics, it still hasn't really done what it was supposed to do. As a matter of fact, it's done the opposite. It's helped build your sense of self, build your character, build your composure, or affirm your composure. Maybe it may have even activated some intensify security on account of the attempts that wasn't activated before. You know, like where they're meant to be insecurity, they may have helped to bolster your security, not just within your own embodiment, but again from a supernatural force where it's like, hold up, ain't nobody tell y'all to do all that. All right. Or we gonna make sure that all of that lands exactly where we want it to be, says the divine. Not to the demise of this energy, but actually to bolster her defense or to further her, whatever, her offense in some way, shape, or form. Ooh, look at this. Oh my goodness. Oh, they was throwing the kitchen sink, child. As my light just went off. Yeah, it was supposed to be a knockout. For sure. And ended up being a transformation and also a transition to something more favorable. Like they done made you a whole new creature. Wow. King of Swords. Now this has its own personal implications for me, but for all intents of a general reading, I'll say that it just brought out the best in you, brought out your most refined true self and true identity. That's what it transformed you into. Objectively. Ooh, oh, what's this? The Two of Cups and the Magician. Yep, there's the transformation right there. And the transmutation at that. I'm going to switch these around because it's like, yeah, my nose is itching. It's like you transmuted that energy to the best of your ability, because this is the Magician. It's not the Temperance per se, but it's like whatever you could use at hand, you worked the elements to do the best that you could for yourself, to maintain balance, to make the best out of the worst, to recover, to learn from your mistakes, maybe to study your opponent and learn how to protect yourself, or learn more offensive moves, or learn the best defense that actually is offensive in some cases, to restore your deficiencies or deficits wherever they were, to make something out of nothing sometimes, like whatever it is that you needed to do in your own strength, in your own might, in your own power, and in the resources that were naturally afforded to you, you did the best that you could to maintain balance within yourself, and to always like honor like a covenant between yourself and yourself, not to fall too far off balance or too off, to like I said, like to absorb the impact in the most graceful way you possibly could, and then recover from it. And is that type of like exemplifying that level of strength and agility that gets the universe activated to then make up the difference and exceed the natural possibilities at that point. That's not what was intended, because somebody was just looking at you for the target that you appeared to be, not realizing the heart. That's what it is, like having the heart of a fighter, a warrior, a champion. You didn't look like you were built for all that. You didn't look like you was about that life. that fight to the death life. You look like one blow and you be on your face or on your back. There's that again. But somebody didn't realize how dedicated you were to your own grace and your own love and integrity, healing yourself, restoring and replenishing yourself as needed, calling on or petitioning energies beyond yourself when it was necessary, and believing for those energies to intercede. What is that? I'm outside. Scared the crap out of me. Believing on those energies to intercede as needed and empower you to stand 10 toes down, whether it be to fight another fight, to protect yourself, to walk away when you need to, because sometimes it's harder to do that than anything else, to absorb a hit or a punch that you may not have even seen coming, or to see it coming and know how to protect yourself or avert, to dodge it accordingly. Whatever the case may be, it's like no one on site, when you have that like promotional matchup, when the two fighters come together and they're like talking their shit and all that, like, I'm gonna do this to you or whatever, you know how it go when they're promoting the fight. And it's all the rah-rah, It's like when somebody matched up their skills to yours, or what they had in their arsenal compared to what they believed you had in yours. They just thought it was a sure shot, a sure win. TKO in a matter of minutes, in a matter of lifetimes, seasons, in a matter of attacks, or whatever they thought. It wasn't supposed to be that hard. And it's given as somebody threw their best punch, like everything they had in their muscle, spiritually, physically, mentally, associatively, emotionally, like everything that they had at their disposal. Like I said, the kitchen sink. It was like a UFC fight. Like, yeah, somebody came as a UFC fighter and you thought it was just a friendly little boxing match or a sparring match, Like, that's what you look, or maybe look like you were prepared for. They ain't know you was an assassin at heart. They had no idea. But they know now. All right, so they thought you was just, the sweet little empress. She wouldn't hurt a fly. She loves to love. She loves to nurture. She doesn't want to see anything die. She doesn't want to see anyone fail or fall. You can always tug on her heartstrings to get some sympathy or compassion or some love or whatever you need. Healing. You need a place to stay. You need a word of encouragement. You need a home cooked meal. You need a little bit of cash. You need a shoulder to cry on. You need a little nookie. I'm saying? A little sexual healing. I got you. No, that's not this type of empress. That's not this type. That's the type of empress to take off her earrings, got sneakers on under that robe, be done tied it up, pulled her hair back, put Vaseline on her face, and is ready to go round for round if need be. But you'd be surprised to know that she can actually fight. And it don't matter, man, woman, God forbid, child, but man or woman, she's here for it. And her tactic, her skill of fighting is like guerrilla style. You thought she was just going to be, windmilling and mollywopping. Meanwhile, she done psyched you out before she even had to throw a punch. Got you all up in your head and out of your mind at the same time. That's crazy. What's on the bottom? Meanwhile, I saw this in the pre-shuffle too. Meanwhile, they still trying to figure out, first of all, either the next plan of attack, or somewhere licking their wounds, trying to figure out, watching the tape, but trying to figure out what happened, what went wrong, how did they lose, how is the Empress still standing, still on her throne, still sitting pretty, whose fault is it? What should we have done differently? What can we do better? Nothing. Because the point of it all is that everything that is conspired to be done against the best, I'll say for the worst of this Empress well-being, someone that is a bringer of life, perhaps a keeper of life, that is all of those things naturally that someone wanted to play upon or take advantage of or thought was their Achilles heel. For all of those reasons is why everything that is meant for the harm of an energy such as that is creative, that is productive, literally and physically and spiritually, in every sense of their being, as a matter of fact, is going to be transmuted and integrated for the best and the greatest good of that target. Every time. It's never going to change at this point. That's always going to be the case. And it'll also cause some type of backlash and backfire for whomever threw those hands in the first place. That's the norm. Perhaps it always was, but there were things that, there were corruptions that were allowed. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the sport of the spirit, there were things that were overlooked and admissible at a different round, a different time in the game, in the match. But where we are at this point is champion status now. So a real true champion is not fighting against any energy. They're only fighting to empower themselves in the most organic way possible, and with the divine agenda and counsel in their corner. So anything contrary to that is just a loser, period. It's just a loss. And that's just what it is. So you could go get your mama, you could get your cousins, you could get your friends from the hood, you could get your cousins that don't care who they fight and they just ready to rumble. You could go get folks that don't know no better. You could go get folks that get paid to throw them hands or throw them spells, whatever your pleasure. It's always going to end up being a win for the divine feminine and anyone and anything that aligns organically and purely, authentically with that force. It is so, and so it is. Ding, ding, ding. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.